where even some of the Gambian political agitators were from Fourobé College. In French West Africa, you have this very important institution in Dakar that they call École Normale William Ponty. This was a teacher training college. Most of the French West African independent leaders were from that institution, such as the Modibo Keita, the first president of Mali. He graduated in that institution. You have Hubert Manga, the first president of Benin.
Mamadou Dia.
Dia Mamadou of the first prime minister of Senegal. Ouzine Coulibaly, the first prime minister of Burkina Faso, and numerous others. So when they came out, they came with the ideology of not like the first nationalists that we want an extended legislature, we want membership in the executive council, we want promotions in the civil service, but they said we want independence now, because we want self-rule. This was what you promised us. And we have seen it in the Atlantic Charter that you say all people. So why not, we are not included in that all people. So we need a self-rule. So they have all the important educational apparatus in them. They have the education in them. They have the political awareness, and they have the world view also, because most of them have traveled in the West and they have seen a lot about Europeans and the weaknesses of Europeans.
Let me take you now. We've seen the scenario in its entirety in the continent and, of course, in the sub-region, West Africa. Let me take you to the Gambia in particular. The rise of political parties.
Yeah. The first thing that we look at in the Gambia was newspapers, popular press. They had an effect on the rise of nationalism in the Gambia. Edward Francis Small founded the Gambia Outlook, and also Senegambia reporters. These were giving Gambians, particularly the urban Gambians, the colonial, those in the colony, that what is happening in the Gambia, what the colonialists were doing that they should not do. And also, there was also this newspaper that was founded by Njai Gomez and Carol Allen and others that they call the Gambia Echo. Now, these newspapers continuously were informing Gambians about the ill effect of colonialism, that it is high time now Gambians should get up and own their own government, because it's their right to participate in their own government, and it is their right to have an opportunity in commerce, in education, in medical and legal services. And the trend encouraged some elites in the colony to form not political organizations, but to be political activists, because that is how it started, political activists. Men like Usman Jeng, he was the first Muslim to be nominated and became a member of the Legislative Council, followed by Seomar Faye, and followed by Edward Francis Small. They were members of the Legislative Council, and they made it a way for the introduction of the Batos Town Council, where many prominent politicians were members of the town council. Some rose to the point of becoming speakers of the town council. That is where the political awareness developed until the first political party. There were political organizations, of course, formed by Francis Small and others that were very, very small organizations, and their focus was very narrow. But when political organizations started, like Reverend Jesse Faye founded the Democratic Party, the Muslim Congress Party, and then Perinjai United Party. St. Clair Juve also founded the People's Party. All these parties were urban-based parties, but they had an impact.
Batos and the Kombo-St. Mary.
Batos and Kombo-St. Mary. At first it was Batos. It was only in 1947 when Kombo-St. Mary, because then it was part of the protectorate. But in 1947, it became part of the colony. Yeah. So the political agitation started. And the election, the franchise was very narrow, because the Legislative Council, and later on the Executive Council. So it was very narrow. Perhaps they'll say, all right, one Christian, one Muslim, one Christian. So it was like that in a very narrow base. until at such a time the colonialists themselves have seen that the trend that it is going, we have to give a universal suffrage to all.
Constitutional advancement was also very slow at that time.
Yeah, compared to other British West Africa. You know, when we look at the British West Africa and the French West Africa, the agitation was more powerful in British West Africa than the French West Africa. Because we know the reason why in the French West Africa, because of this system of assimilation. When you will be taken to France to become a minister, so what are you going to fight for your people? So when you are taken there as a member of parliament, so the prestige is already there. That's why, you know, in British West Africa, they were more forceful in their demand for independence than the French West Africa. But anyway, in the Gambia here, it was very slow as compared to that of other British West African countries, because they had for long been members of the Legislative Council, members of the Executive Council. In fact, their Legislative Council was turned into Parliament well before the Gambia's Legislative Council was turned into a Parliament.
We will skip the first election of 1960, which was held in May 30th, of which the parties were very insignificant. You had the United Party, the DCA, and the other little parties that were around. But 1964 became a turning point, just 1 year before independence. It was a turning point because this was a time when the People's Protectorate Society, later to be called PPP, was in action. The United Party was also there. And this was a time when it was just ripe for Gambia to become independent. Can you elaborate on that?
1960 was a very important year in history. The people of the protectorate will heard of that there is election in the urban centers, there is election in Batos, there is election in Bakau, but they did not know what election is all about. So that's why it became a contentious issue, because they were not prepared for it. When the Protectorate People's Party was formed, they sort of went into an aggressive campaign into the protectorate. And what they told the people of the protectorate was that the bread and butter that was in the mouth of the people of the urban area is now going to be taken from them, and you are going to have that bread and butter. So this was seen as a truthful statement by the protectorate people, that, oh, now it is our turn to eat the bread and butter. So they were not prepared for party politics. That's why, you know, in those days, villages were divided. So, but when universal suffrage was introduced, obviously the PPP was able to play its card very well because of its protectorate connection. That's why the urban parties were outwitted. And this led to the death of many urban parties, because they did not have that exposure, that widespread exposure in the urban centers.
You're watching the interview, and of course my guest here is a lecturer at the University of the Gambia on African history, Usman Mamake Bojang. We're looking at the rise of African nationalism, independence in West Africa, and in particular independence of the Gambia. Mark you, by the way, the Gambia will mark its 48th independence anniversary on the 18th. There's a week-long celebration. The President of the Republic has said, let Gambia come out in their numbers. Everybody is going to celebrate and mark the 48th independence anniversary with pomp and pageantry. We now move on to a very, very important date in the annals of Gambian history, and this was the Marlborough Conference, which was held in London in 1964. Mark you, on the 22nd of July. Can you elaborate on that?
Obviously, this conference, it was the British have seen that the way the Gambia was going, there was no way but to be given their independence. So therefore, they organized this very important conference for Gambian political parties. And interestingly, it was on the 22nd of July, 1964, where Gambians, particularly the majority party then, was the PPP, what they were tabling on what they were having on the table was immediate independence now. Although there were some opposition parties that were saying, we just want self-rule until such a time that we'll ask for independence. But the majority carries the vote. At the conference, most of the other political parties different from the United Party, like the Congress Party of Gaba